What I loved was the popcorn, the smell of the fresh cut grass, the crack of the bat on the ball. I mean, that's corny, but that was like somebody beginning to conduct an orchestra.
I like baseball, and it's my game. You know, you take your worries to the park and you leave them there. You yell like crazy for your guys. Good for your lungs. Nobody calls the cops.
The Jew, the Greek, the Armenian, were foreigners. We were the Ginzos from the other side. And the only thing that made the connection was this baseball game, because baseball was America.
Forever Baseball, next on The American Experience. Major funding for this series is provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by the financial support of viewers like you.
Corporate funding for the American Experience is provided by Aetna. For more than 130 years, a part of the American Experience.
Good evening, I'm David McCullough. It's one of the supreme American inventions, like the airplane or jazz, and it's the subject of tonight's film, Forever Baseball. Just why we Americans so love baseball is hard to explain even among ourselves. Some of the appeal is obvious. Anybody can play. Young, not so young, men, women, all shapes, all sizes. If you're good, there's no limit to how far you can go. All that matters is how you perform. Everybody can play, and the rules are the same for everybody, and we like that. That's America. It's a team sport, yet, like America, it inspires and rewards individualism. Baseball has given us some of the best-loved heroes in our national life. Who among us wouldn't give almost anything to be a big league star, even if only for a day? Mark Twain found it hard to think well of the French because they have no word for home. We're a people who have made a national pastime of a game in which the whole object is to get home. And a lot of what we feel about baseball, I'm sure, has to do with pride in that particular place we call our own. It's the New York Yankees, after all. It's the St. Louis Cardinals, the Baltimore Orioles that we care so much about. Some people never get over it when the home team is sold or moves away. That's something I've never had to contend with, thank goodness. The Pittsburgh Pirates are still in Pittsburgh. Also, there's something about the fact that baseball isn't played against the clock. In baseball, there is no clock. Time doesn't matter. The game matters. A tie game, theoretically, could go on forever. Maybe we can't get to the heart of the mystery of the game. The Russians are taking it up now, and a recent Russian visitor to New York after seeing his first game said, "Something is not simple about baseball, or America."
For true believers, it's a sight to behold, an almost mystical configuration, a geometrically perfect landscape. Its dimensions seem to fit the country, regardless of time or terrain. An institution almost as old as any in the land. For 150 years, America has made a place for baseball.
Take me out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jack. I don't care if I never get back. Let me root, root, root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame, for it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game.
Anywhere you look in America, there's hardly a community, city, town, or village untouched by the game, without a diamond, without a team. Baseball is a game that's left an indelible mark on the culture and given us something to talk about.
The game is the most redolent of memories in your own boyhood. That waiting, the waiting you do in the outfield, the waiting you do at the bat for the pitch that you can hit. I mean, it's a game of leisure interspersed with these sudden electrical moments when you got to produce.
In between those moments, those seconds that stretch to minutes, is where we are creating that game in our minds. And I think that for the writer, that's not just a provocation for the imagination, that's suction on the imagination that pulls it out.
In baseball, you can kind of sense when you hit it right, hit the right note, there's a gratification. You're painting, you're writing, anything you're doing. When you hit it right, being it hits right.
Baseball is a game that carries with it the power of myth, the weight of legend, the burden of history.
Right now, if I look back at history, I would have to say that it was the sport that most realized the promise of the American dream for the largest numbers of people.
There's something about the combination of baseball being an individual sport, which it is primarily, even though it's a team sport, that captures American history. I mean, we were a nation that was founded on the pioneers who were willing to go from the east to the west, across the Rocky Mountains as individuals, and yet at the same time, they wouldn't have made it out west if there hadn't been the barn raisings that the community contributed to each time a new house was made. And we always have this uneasy relationship between individual and community in this nation, and I think baseball does too.
Baseball is sufficiently old in a sports-conscious society that it has come to bear many of the patriotic and other legends. Now, a lot of it is false, because as well as bearing the legends, it bears the ugly side.
Baseball has been and is and continues to be a reflection of that society. That has nothing to do with the game. The game itself is a great game.
The 19th century poet Walt Whitman wrote, "I see great things in baseball. It's our game, the American game." For generation after generation of immigrants and their children, the ball game was America.
We wouldn't drink milk from the bottle. We wouldn't go to Sheffield or Borden because that was for the Americans. And we wouldn't buy white bread. So we're foreigners. We're like the Jew, the Greek, the Armenian. We were the Ginzos from the other side. And the only thing that made the connection was this baseball game, because baseball was America.
There's the danger of taking the game too seriously, of being carried away by symbolism and metaphor. But if there are rituals by which a country is known, they include pastimes, some of them repeated summer after summer, as far back as anyone can remember. This wasn't just a playing field, but hallowed ground. Not just a game, but an occasion of state. Only in baseball were presidents obliged to throw out the first ball of the season, except Warren Harding, who had a sore arm. The folklore of baseball is complex and contradictory, a link to America's past. That may explain why the game also attracts the attention of American thinkers, of writers and artists, enough of them to fill the wing of a museum. To look for the meaning of the game, it may not be enough to go to the ballpark or the record book. It may be found here. It's almost as old as baseball itself. This need to explore not only the substance, but the spirit of the game, to understand its hold on the imagination.
You know, it's a ball game. It's a feast of abstract art. The ballpark's got 50,000. I painted 1,000, so I'm really getting the essence of baseball. I grab the essence of the field. And if you look at my paintings, they're really flowers. They're flowers. They're in a state of grace in the morning. And the whole thing of flowers, they're flowers. And but if you can't paint flowers and paint baseball, you can't paint it up, don't ever paint.
I've often thought perhaps that the seed of my love for history really was set in baseball, because in those days when I listened on the radio to the Brooklyn Dodgers while my father was at work, he never told me that the box scores would be in the paper the next day. So when I kept score for him religiously at home and would share the game with him on our porch at night when he came home, recreating the history, in other words, of that game, I thought without me, he'd never know what happened to the baseball game.
I'm a paleontologist. I work in a fossil record where 99.9% of the information is missing. In baseball, everything that happened is known, at least in some overt numerical sense. So we have complete statistics for 100 years of unchanged activity. There's almost nothing else for which we have data like that.
For the American male, and maybe for many American females now, there is an unbroken continuum of games that you've seen merging with games that you played in as a child, so that all exercises in oral memory are a way of recapturing your life and living it and saying that it mattered. And Proust said, the past is paradise. So to enter back into those games, I guess, is a way of entering back into your youth and reversing the flow of time for a while.
In baseball, you can go back in time, almost as if nothing's changed. Walk into New York's Metropolitan Museum, and here among the treasured relics of ancient civilizations are cardboard icons of a storied past. Icons can be sacred or profane. For a great many people, these are sacred. That's the great Ty Cobb, the Georgia peach. And that's Christy Matheson, the immortal Christy Matheson. And this one, of Hannes Wagner, today is worth $100,000. Icons don't come cheap. But in baseball, nothing's more valuable than nostalgia, no matter the era.
Let's see, where was you in 1905, kid?
I was in Philadelphia, 1905 Philadelphia Nationals.
Oh, that was the year that our athletics won the pennant and played the Giants for the World Series. You know, the Giants of that year had that great Madison, a wonderful pitcher, perhaps the best pitcher that this country has ever had. Well, kid, do you think the old ball players are ahead of the players of today?
No, I don't think so. I really don't.
But you know, it was a little harder going in these old days, wasn't it, kid?
You bet your life it was harder going.
Even then, Kid Gleason and Connie Mack could each look back on more than 25 years in the game. These were the 1905 Giants, raising their championship flag over a game played pretty much as it is today. The same way it was played in 1876, the year Major League Baseball began. The year Custer lost to the Indians, and Chicago won the pennant. The game might not have been invented by a general named Doubleday, but by a bank clerk named Cartwright. It hardly mattered. In baseball as elsewhere, there's plenty of room for both myth and reality.
There wasn't any old breast protectors then, was there? Any mats? And no shin guards either, was there? And them old infielders either. They didn't put on any of them, those large-fingered gloves, did they?
No, did he?
But things have improved wonderfully since then, though, haven't they?
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
Take it from the novelist Bernard Malamud. The whole history of baseball has the quality of mythology.
Don't you think, though, today, kid, with it all, no joking aside, that most of these players ought to be playing for the fun of it?
Well, a lot of them does play for the fun of it.
Well, name me a few that plays for the fun.
But I can't do that right now, boss, but I...
There might have been no more hollow laugh in baseball history. They were expected to play for the fun of it, to be honest, even noble. But Kid Gleason knew something was wrong as he watched his team, the heavily favored Chicago White Sox, lose to Cincinnati in the 1919 World Series. 8 of his players had conspired with gamblers. The fix was in. There's been no bigger scandal in American sports. You didn't have to be there or know anything about baseball to know it was a national tragedy.
I think the fascination was best stated, really, in The Great Gatsby, where Fitzgerald has Nick Carraway sitting in a bar, and he sees Meyer Wolfsheim, the character patterned after Arnold Rothstein, who fixed it. And I'm not going to remember the words exactly, but he fundamentally says, you know, I couldn't believe that I was sitting 10 feet from the man who played with the faith of the nation as if he were a burglar cracking a safe. You know, this simple, mundane thing that he just threw some money at this thing that we hold dear, the faith of a nation, and said, hey, I can screw around with that. It's a horrifying thought.
The ball players of that era were pretty rough customers, pretty simple men. They were farm boys trying to stay off the farm, or they were city rats trying to stay out of the slums. And it just shows how much we demand from these men, that they were so thoroughly crushed by the aftermath of the scandal. Baseball, like Hollywood, felt obliged to appoint commissars to supervise its own purity. I guess it's some kind of gauge of the investment that we have in its virtue that those men were so harshly and probably unjustly punished.
There was lots of gambling in baseball, and there were lots of thrown games. And in the late 1920s, none less than Ty Cobb and Tris Speaker were accused on very good authority with very good evidence of having bet on and thrown games. But that was pushed away. That was hidden. The Black Sox adventure, not only was it not hidden, it was magnified even beyond its size.
We had the purists, we had the American, we had a great, we're on this our whole tradition. And we got this game going on, we got our great heroes like Ruth in baseball. It's a tremendous thing we pick up as a kid. Always on up and up. Don't forget, kids don't steal, kids don't lie, you know, the little petty stuff. And I mean, it's an honest game. And you play with a batch of guys, it's still an honest game, and you find something wrong. Well, you bring into question, is this possible?
It was possible. The White Sox became the Black Sox, a reminder of what many people wanted to forget. Baseball heroes were human, fallible, could even be crooked, just like anyone else.
I remember a guy in the 1930s was telling me that baseball is a fixed game. I said, man, you're out of your mind. I couldn't live with nobody. I wouldn't buy it. If it was true, I wouldn't believe it anyway. You know, we're funny.
A game with the power to shatter illusions also had the power to restore faith. Perhaps is the most enduring of all metaphors about baseball. It's linked to the country, to the land, to the seasons, to spring. In baseball, too, spring is a time of renewal, of youthful optimism. When all things seem possible, even winning the pennant, whatever the disappointments of seasons past. It's all been said 1,000 times before. Make that 1,001.
I've always wondered, what the hell is this man Ralph at 74, going to be 75, still charged up about baseball? And I have all kinds of answers, ballet, this thing and that thing and that thing. And I have a million answers because it's always been bugging me. I mean, my friend like said, Ralph, you're 72, you're still going to see a goddamn ball game. Still pick up the newspaper, first page is baseball. Like this morning, two important things, Poland and China. And yet I got to go to baseball first. What is this thing that drives you to baseball first? What's the score? What's the thing that gets you? Well, about a couple of weeks ago, I finally think I got close to it. Remembering you as a kid, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, these are the most beautiful age in your life. You're in a state of grace. And that state of grace is the discovery of everything, space, time, smell, feeling. And you're innocent, everything is just beautiful. So this thing gets you. Everything in the state of grace.
Come on, Brian. Let's get it. 1, get 3 out.
This is the way it begins, the age of discovery. Baseball's been called a habit acquired in childhood.
Good, Brian.
Wherever the field, whoever's playing the game, there's a way to talk, a way to stand, a way to move, And when the ball comes at you, a way to make it look easy.
All right, that's good.
This is in equal parts baseball and initiation rite.
I won't yell at you if you swing. If it's over your head by a mile, yes. But I mean, if it's in there, swing. All right? Talk among yourselves out there. Let's start playing some good ball. We got a good team here, but we got to get it together. We're not playing good ball. All right? If you're going to strike out, I don't mind if you swing it back. Stand there looking, then come back and say, "Oh, gods, coach, that was a bad pitch."
Well, a lot of boys, younger boys, asked me why I hit balls so far when I was a younger boy. I was a young boy, too, just like yourself. But the whole way I put it is timing.
The lore of the game was stored up and saved and passed on, sometimes on film, sometimes from the babe himself.
That's the only excuse I see why I hit them so far. And that's the reason why you see these boys today hitting them so far. They get that timing and the breaking of the wrist.
But most often, then as now, the classroom was closer to home. That's one of the things about baseball. You don't have to be a Babe Ruth to get the hang of it.
Don't too early. Hold the bat out in front. Try that. That's it. Okay, bunties. Down third baseline.
It's a legacy, an inherited trust shared by everyone who's played the game.
One like you mean it.
Handed down from father to son, from one generation to the next.
Tough.
I was primed to become a Major League Baseball player by my father. I mean, he primed me, you know. We'd go out and pitch we'd go out and he'd catch and I'd pitch and he'd show me how to throw a curve, show me how to throw the slider, show me how to throw a screwball, all those knuckleballs, whatever pitchers have, he showed me.
My father was a very cheerful, optimistic, warm-hearted man, and he loved to talk a lot. So during the game, everything that was going on, he would be telling me, "Do you see why that guy is doing what he's doing, or don't you see the left fielder shading or coming in? That's because he knows this guy's not going to hit too far, and he's going to try and hit a single." And I felt like I was learning the wisdom of the ages through him. Somehow there was that sense of being imparted knowledge that I could never have learned on my own, because I knew my father had learned it through years of experience with his father and his grandfather in turn. So that was part of the specialness that I was learning.
Grip a bat and swing it. Have the dream and pursue it.
Very easy to make a baseball diamond, as we all know. You just need a stone or a brick or almost anything, a sweater to serve as home plate and maybe a base or two. A tree can serve as a base, and you're off.
You were off, but not before the opening ceremony of the Sandlot.
Sandlot games, throwing the bat back and forth, catching the bat hand over hand over hand, kicking it out, see who gets to have the first pick. You know, a ritual that is repeated, throughout this hemisphere exactly the same way, and it's been the same way for, 90 years people have been doing that.
There are rituals by which baseball is known. Casey at the Bat has been recited by schoolboys and vaudevillians for 100 years.
The outlook wasn't brilliant for the Monday nine that day. The score stood 4-2 with but one inning.
In baseball, numbers speak louder than words. By his account, in 45 years on the stage, DeWolf Hopper recited Casey more than 10,000 times, each time taking exactly 5 minutes 40 seconds to reach the memorable last line.
Joy myself. My St. Casey has struck out.
It became a mythic event, the most famous strikeout in baseball fiction. This 1899 version of Casey at the Bat by Thomas Edison was among the first baseball movies made. It was just the beginning. What could be more American? Cowboys playing baseball. There were no bigger American heroes. It was a very short throw from Tom Mix to Lou Gehrig to your local theater.
Oh, hello, Lou. Just time. I'll buy you a drink. One of my men was shot a while ago. No. Remember, this strong-arm stuff don't go with me. Don't blame me, Lou. And if you'll tell me who the guy is, I'll help you put him in jail. That's fair enough, isn't it? We'll see about that. Here's one of them now.
Fortunately for the New York Yankees, Lou Gehrig hit better than he acted. Buster Keaton had the opposite problem. In the film College, hoping to win a girl less impressed with brains than with ball players, Keaton packed for success. Baseball films were distinguished by low comedy and high melodrama. But it was melodrama by which baseball would be known and loved in films like The Pinch Hitter. See for yourself, just as audiences did in 1917.
Well, that's baseball, and it's my game. You know, you take your worries to the park and you leave them there. You yell like crazy for your guys. Good for your lungs. Gives you a lift and nobody calls the cops. Pretty girls, lots of them. And a hot dog at the game beats roast beef at the Ritz.
When Bogey spoke, America listened.
Me out with the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jack. I don't care if I never get back. Let me root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game. Take me out to the ball.
The music of the game has been written in quick-step, one-step, and two-step, as quadrilles, marches, and waltzes, as polkas, ballads, and blues, rags, raps, and boogie. But there's been only one anthem.
For it's 1, 2, 3, strike your out at the old ball game.
What I loved was the popcorn, the smell of the fresh cut grass, the crack of the bat on the ball. I mean, that's corny, but I mean, that was like somebody beginning to conduct an orchestra.
I've just gone to a game. I come home and I can't wait, if they've won. I can't wait to watch them on the evening news. And then the replay I love to watch after the fact. And then when I can't wait to wake up at 6:30 in the morning and get my Globe so I can read about the whole game all over again.
Even more than playing baseball, I like to watch it. And I think now, even more than watching, I like to think about it. It's, you know, having absorbed this lifetime of stuff, I'm kind of, floating or drowning in baseball stuff, but it's always with me. It's with me every day and every night, and I think about it before I go to bed. And when I can't sleep, I see if I can think of the lineup of the 1950 Phillies, and it's endlessly useful.
Things perpetuate, you know. Tribes have customs, languages have alphabets, and once one is in place, it becomes its own excuse for going on, in a way. Generation follows generation. People have been talking baseball for quite a while. You know the game. And so after a while, it becomes very hard to displace these few signs at the center of our identity. And baseball is one of them.
Brooklyn rests, sleep well, Flatbush. Rest gently, Williamsburg. Toss not, Green Point.
No place was more identified with baseball than Brooklyn, and nowhere did the music sound as sweet.
For today is the day of Brooklyn, the day of the big game. Oh, Brooklyn. Oh, Brooklyn. Oh, Brooklyn. Oh, Dodgers, brave Dodgers. Oh, justify your noble trust. Ever onward, ever upward, until you bust. Dodgers, brave Dodgers.
The Brooklyn Dodgers occupied a special place in baseball history, worthy of a cantata and of fans who cared.
What I loved about the Dodgers was it was a family affair. They brought their beer, they brought their kids. Then they had some guy playing the trumpet or trombone walking around. I think they introduced music to baseball. And you want the Dodgers feel at that time it was a feast. And that's the way baseball should be.
I think part of it is because each game is a human drama unto itself. so that when you've gone to a game, you don't just remember the score. If you're really into the sport, you remember what happened. You remember that somebody hit a double when there were 2 people on base, or somebody struck out when the bases were loaded, and you remember who did that and even on what pitch they did it, so that you're sharing the game with the person who's with you at the time. But then even more than that, it's a game that can be remembered months, years later, because you really can picture yourself at that game. So somehow it's got its own historical drama. It's like wars. Why are wars so remembered by people? Because you live at the height of intensity and you can remember the battles.
There are battles to remember. Bunker Hill, the Alamo, the Polo Grounds. If baseball is about caring, about loyalty and rivalry, then it's about what happened on October 3rd, 1951. The Dodgers and Giants met in a final playoff game to decide the National League pennant. The Dodgers, the team that invented the cry, "Wait till next year," surely had it won this year. The Giants had come from 13.5 games behind in the closing weeks of the season, something no other team had ever done before. Now losing in the last of the 9th inning, the Giants bravely rallied against history, against the odds, against all reason. No matter who was pitching for the Dodgers, the Giants couldn't possibly win. Unless you keep in mind that baseball is about heartbreak and miracles. Baseball offered possibilities heard throughout the land. The game's never over until the last man is out. It only takes one pitch, one chance. The idea was more important than the game, especially for a nation of immigrants looking for common ground, for ways out of ghettos and into America.
3 clients. I got 3. Rooney, Ricky, Kelly, Tommy, Milk.
These were first-generation Americans for whom the playground was at least one step removed from the tenement.
Your mother and father said, "What the hell is this kid going out and play baseball? Is he crazy? With that stick and a little glove, he's running chasing the ball." You say, "Get the pots," saying, "He's a little crazy. What do you guys want playing baseball?" In the meantime, our parents were interested in bread, making a living. My father was a longshoreman and iceman. My mother worked in the clothing industry. You know, this is a hard life. And the kid, "I got to go and play baseball. I got to sit here." "I'm going to go. Get out. Kick out of the house."
Legends tell us what we want to believe about a country. Folk tales about folk heroes. Like the son of an Italian fisherman from Sicily, born and raised in San Francisco, a high school dropout who suffered from seasickness and a love of baseball. Joe DiMaggio disappointed his father, but won the admiration of a nation.
Hey, man, look at DiMaggio's face. He's Eastern Europe. He's a Greek, he's Italian, he's a Jew. He's all the other part of the world. Then look at, yeah, no. There was an identification with him as a person from the street. He's a foreign-born guy. See, Ruth was an American star, but Joe DiMaggio, with a name like Joe DiMaggio, it means Joe tomorrow. DiMaggio is tomorrow.
For DiMaggio and those who looked up to him, baseball was only part of the story.
If you look at the names in various periods of baseball's history, in the 1860s, the names are Irish. In the 1880s, the names are German. After the turn of the century, the names become Polish. In the 20s, Lazzeri, Cressetti, DiMaggio, Italian. Then black, then Hispanic. And each time you have the ethnic group that is at the lowest part of the sociological ladder using baseball as a way to crawl into the mainstream of American life.
The game could claim a place in history, but no one took baseball more seriously than baseball itself. The game's official voice made the biggest pitch of all. No cry was more American than play ball.
This is the voice of America, raised with honest excitement, cheering the team. America has many voices, but none is more completely representative than this one. And none comes more simply from the heart. Baseball is one of the great common denominators of American life. When game time rolls round, there are no social barriers. There's no wrong side of the tracks among those who play the game. Baseball is everybody's game.
Even the lovely ladies flock to the parks to boo and cheer. Yes, there's no doubt about it. Baseball is king.
The rhetoric of the game and the country were the same, as if segregation didn't exist. If baseball was an instrument of change, of assimilation, it also was a reflection of prejudices.
I didn't know it. I didn't know it. In fact, I didn't know until they made it conscious that the blacks weren't allowed. We do things we don't even know that we're doing. I mean, I sat in the ballpark for 29 years. I never knew the blacks were allowed to play baseball. How come I didn't ask the question?
Well, I was a kid then, but I can tell you my sense from around the house and relatives and being a paper boy for the black newspaper, Chicago Defender, Afro-American, and Pittsburgh Courier, that nobody who read those papers or talked about baseball had the vaguest hope that black people would ever wind up playing Major League Ball. It was something you didn't waste your breath discussing.
Hello, everybody, my name is Satchel Paige. Oh, everybody, my name is Satchel Paige. I started playing baseball during my early age. I made the big leagues at the age of 42. I made the big leagues at the age of 42. If I had been a white man, I'd have made it at 22.
His name was Satchel Paige, and he stood for what should have been. Maybe he was the best baseball pitcher of his time, a time when blacks played in the Negro Leagues. He could only watch the making of another baseball legend, not knowing that someday their paths would cross. It was the classic American portrait and baseball's classic tale, the legend of Bob Feller, the boy coming off the farm, pitching hay and fastballs. The 17-year-old school kid from a town nobody's ever heard of, who even before graduating from high school leaves home for the big city. Here was living proof of baseball's link to the heartland. Bob Feller may have been the best pitcher of his time, but we'll never know for sure. Because Feller and Satchel Paige shared the same time, if not always the same field. They only played against each other in games that didn't count. They became teammates in the big leagues, only when it was too late to matter. To be black and play baseball when Satchel Paige did, you had to love the game even more and create your own legends.
Yeah, my father's there looking handsome in the back. I don't know if it's fact or fiction, but my father was the catcher in the story of Satchel Paige pitching against the white Major League stars. And they got 3 people on base. First 3 people got on base. He walked somebody got a hit, and an error or something. There were 3 people on base. So he told the rest of the team to sit down. And it was just him and my father. And everybody says, what are you doing? He says, I'm going to strike out the rest of the people. And he did. So that is one of the great legends and myths in black communities everywhere amongst those old people, those older people who were into black baseball, that Satchel Paige did that. And so, you know, when we would think about, can we make this? Can we do this in this society? Can we get over? Can we get into the mainstream? Can we win? You know, we would always, a lot of us would always think about that image.
Baseball, after all, was no more than an image of the nation's passions and prejudices. It helped the country and the game when in 1947, Jackie Robinson destroyed a myth about who could and couldn't play in the big leagues. Much has been made of baseball's simple virtues and complex meanings, of its place in the American experience. And maybe there's something to it. You can argue whether art imitates life or life imitates art, but in the hands of artists and Willie Mays, baseball is both. There are many reasons why the country has grown so attached to the game, why so many of us look at baseball and find America. One reason may be baseball's sense of tradition, of continuity, like returning to an old and familiar neighborhood. The game proceeds at its own deliberate pace, like a summer's day, the best of all seasons. What better time to get a feel for the American landscape? What better place to indulge our selective memories, our wildest hopes and dreams, than at the ballpark? We know baseball isn't just a kid's game. It can be a hard and sometimes heartless business. But reality is what the rest of life is about. This is about the start of another new season, where the game hasn't yet gotten too big, too impersonal, too mercenary, too far removed from its beginnings, where you can still get a seat for opening day to see the hometown Mets, the Pittsfield Mets. It's among the most wondrous of American miracles to be paid to play baseball.
I won't be able to read this.
Cobb and Ruth, Aaron and Mays, they all started this way in the minor leagues.
You guys play baseball?
Yep.
Good. Stay with it. Someday you'll be here doing better than all of us. All right, guys? Good luck to you guys. Take care, huh? See ya.
An English writer, Leslie Hazelton, said of her first baseball game, "It's everything one expects of America. A brass band, plumes and drums and high-stepping youth." The perfect American day, she wrote. The perfect American place.
Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Anywhere you look in America, every spring, the ritual renews itself, not just for every game, but the sweet anticipation, the wait for every pitch. If there are rituals by which a country is known, this is one of them. Repeated summer after summer, as far back as anyone can remember.
Take me out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd. I need some peanuts and cracker jack. I don't mind if I never get back. Let me root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. For as 1, 2, 3, stretch her out at the ball game.
Major funding for this series is provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by the financial support of viewers like you.
Corporate funding for the American Experience is provided by Aetna. For more than 130 years, a part of the American Experience.
Educational organizations may inquire about video cassettes of the American Experience by calling 1-800-424-7963.
This is PBS.
For a printed transcript of this or any American Experience program,